I think we in here. I think we in here. Let me go check. Let me see if we are live. If we are indeed live, I gotta check the tubes of the U of the tubes out here in these YouTube streets. I have been slacking in my Mackin', but baby, I'm back. Baby, I'm back. Ooh, I just turned that on. What does that say? You can't carry a gun in our city. Mayor Adams delivers a stern message at a visual of a killing. A visual of a killed officer. Okay, we might have to talk about that later. I saw in New York the other day, I think it was an 11-year-old that was shot and killed. Now, none of these things are new. I just think they sound new when they say them in the news. Let me get over here and see if this sound is working. Let me see if I'm live. If I'm live at almost 5. Somewhere in the world. All right, I guess I am live at 5. Let me still come over here so I can see what I could see and do what I could do. I got the thumbs up saying that I am, in fact, live and alive. All right, so today I want to talk about Penny Hardaway. Penny Hardaway, the basketball coach of Memphis, NCAA men's basketball team. He had a press conference the other day, and I've read in different places. I've read in some places that he flew off the handle. I've read that he had a meltdown. I saw different commentators saying that he lost control, like he just went nuts. And sometimes I hear about these things before I see them because, of course, we can't all be there to see everything at the same time. We got shit to do. And so as I sat there and I went through it, I said, well, let me break this down. Let me go back and listen to what Penny said. And before I got to do that, someone sent me Stephen A. Smith's response to him. And I'm not here to put down Stephen A. Smith. I did put in the title that his response or his advice to Penny Hardaway, Anthony Hardaway, to Penny Hardaway was garbage. I think the advice itself was garbage, and I'm going to tell you why in a bit, but I don't want to sit here and seem like I am just all out putting down Stephen A. Smith, because I do indeed agree with Stephen A. Smith on some things. Not all things, but on some things, and on a lot of things at that. I think if we get to the point to where we feel as if we have to agree with each other on everything, something's wrong. And anytime you do see someone agreeing with somebody on everything, something's wrong. Cue the music. All right, so look, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play a little something. I'm going to play this montage from ESPN. It's not even really a montage. It's just a clip of Penny Hardaway during the press conference, and we're going to go through that a little bit, and then we are going to play Mr. Stephen advice to Penny Hardaway. And I do think that he was trying to give him advice out of the goodness of his heart. I don't think he was coming from a malicious place. I don't want to go there. I'm not trying to say that, but I do think the advice was garbage.
I think the one thing I can say to this media, because this media gets kind of up sometimes when it comes to me, we don't have our full roster. Y'all know we don't have our full roster. Stop asking me stupid questions about if I feel like I can do something. We have 4 freshmen starting. Y'all need to act like it. Act like we got 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds out here trying to learn how to play against 22, 23, and 24-year-old guys. Come on, man. Stop disrespecting me, bro. Like, don't do that. I work too hard. I work way too hard for that. Y'all write all these articles about me, and all I do is work. We got young kids on the floor. They got young kids on the floor.
All right, time for some quick takes. After his team's 3rd straight loss, Memphis coach Penny.
All right, so we got to hear from Penny Hardaway real quick and what Penny Hardaway had to say. And Penny is frustrated. Penny is obviously frustrated. The team haven't been having the year that they were expected to have. They got some not draft pick. They got some top recruits. And, sports can be a hard situation. Sports and sports analysis, sports fans, and just opinions of people in sports can sometimes be very, very harsh. And I understand that. I understand that is all a part of the game while we out here in these YouTube streets. Amon, what's up? What's going on with you, man? I'm talking about this here with Penny Hardaway and Stephen A. Jackson. And so Penny Hardaway was like, hey, man, why are you guys asking me stupid questions? And I see the point where people say they don't like the fact that he used expletives. They don't like the fact that he used expletives. They don't like the fact that he used a few curse words. But when I look at it and I see articles saying, Anthony Hardaway has a meltdown. Anthony Hardaway, or they call him Penny. Penny loses it. Penny loses it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, did he really lose it or was he just frustrated? Because I think words are very important. Words are very important. And the reporter asked him, are you embarrassed? Like, when is his answer supposed to be? Yes, I'm extremely embarrassed of my team. I think that we're just the worst team in the NCAA. You're asking him a question for an aha moment. You're asking him a meltdown question, hoping that he melts down. And I don't think he actually melted down. I don't think frustration and a meltdown can be considered the same thing. And this is something that I have noticed when it comes to certain people in sports. It's okay for certain people to do things, and it's not okay for other people to do it. I'm going to play it again. I'm going to play Anthony Hardaway, and I'm going to go ahead and get into what Stephen A. Smith had to say. And again, this was his advice, and I think the advice, personally, I think it was garbage.
I think the one thing I can say to this media, because this media gets kind of up sometimes when it comes to me, we don't have our full roster. Y'all know we don't have our full roster. Stop asking me stupid questions about if I feel like I can do something. We have.
He says, stop asking me stupid questions about if I feel that I could do something, because the reporter also asked him if he felt, and I'm paraphrasing, if he was confident enough in himself to continue coaching the team. And my thing is this, that's asking, would you ask a guy, hey, do you beat your wife? I mean, what exactly is he supposed to say? And when a reporter is asking a question to somebody, and that question is going to put their money in jeopardy if they answer wrong, or going to start making people think things that may not be true if they answer wrong. Again, it's one of those gotcha questions to where, of course, is going to frustrate him. He asked him that, and he also asked him, is he embarrassed by his team? That's his team. That's like asking a parent, are you embarrassed by your child? Even if you are, you're not about to just outright say yes. And the difference is between being a parent and a coach is, as a parent, you're not going to get fired. As a coach, you can get fired. Reporters say certain things that start putting thoughts in owners' mind, and fans' mind. These things start to grow. And in sports, and just like in life, a lot of things are about perception. And so then you'll start perceiving him a certain way. So little things like that, then the perception will come off as if, oh, well, he doesn't have confidence in himself as a coach. Oh, he doesn't have confidence in his team. Oh, he's actually embarrassed of his team. And all of these things start with a question that is asked by a reporter. So I'm going to get back into this. I'm going to get back into Penny.
Freshman starting. Y'all need to act like it. Act like we got 17 to 18 and 19-year-olds out here trying to learn how to play against 22, 23, and 24-year-old guys. Come on, man. Stop disrespecting me, bro. Like, don't do that. I work too hard.
And again, he says, come on, stop disrespecting me, bro. So he's talking directly to somebody. And what we have to remember is Memphis is a small market city. Memphis is a small market city. They have talent of a big market team. But in these small market cities, you have the same reporters who have been reporting on you for a long time. Don't forget, this is where Penny is from. This is where Penny is from. Penny is a Memphis hometown hero. And so when he's talking to this reporter, he's talking to a reporter that he obviously have a rapport with. He has obviously been reading stories, listening to things that has got him to a boiling point to where he feel like, you know what, I got to say something to this guy. I have to say something to this guy. And all the condemnation I have been seeing, it worries me a little bit because I wonder, when can a guy actually say something? And I know people think, well, there's a way to go about it. And I'm not going to disagree with that. Of course, there's a way about everything. But does a man ever have the right to get frustrated? And so I'm going to play some more, and then I'm going to get into what Stephen A. Smith had to say. And I want to break that down too.
Work way too hard for that. Y'all write all these articles about me, and all I do is work. We got young kids on the floor. They got young kids on the floor.
We got young kids on the floor that got young kids on the floor.
Loss, Memphis coach Penny Hardaway sounding off, obviously frustrated. Stephen A., your reaction?
Y'all knock this, take this video out and put me on camera, please. I want me on camera right now. Let me say this to Penny Hardaway. I am a fan. I want everybody to know this. I'm a fan of Penny Hardaway. He's a great dude. And I think he's doing a hell of a job at Memphis. First 3 years there, he's won 20 games. 2020.
And I want to commend Stephen A. for starting with that because he didn't have to. And I think he's padding himself for what he's about to say. And again, I think what he's about to say isn't out of malice. I want to say that right now off the top. I just think it's a different way of thinking. And I personally think differently than this way of thinking. But I'm going to get back to it and let you hear some more what Stephen A. had to say.
They won 22 games, first 3 years. They struggling as of recently because of the reasons that he said. Penny Hardaway, I believe, is a damn good coach who's only going to get better and better. And we know he's a hell of a recruiter. And Memphis should be lucky to have him. Having said all of that, let me say this to you, Penny. That does you no good, bro.
Now, right off the top, he says all these great things about Penny. And then he says, that does you no good. Now, that is my very first problem. So basically, it's that old line that no matter how much good you do, one mistake or what people will perceive as a mistake will take away from all that legacy of good that he does. So I want to start right there because Stephen A. himself started off by saying all these great things about Penny. He also says that Memphis should be lucky that they have them. So don't forget, they're lucky to have them. So in sports, sometimes the best player gets a little bit more allowances than the other players, right? But Stephen A. goes on to say something that prompts this thought process in me, and I'm gonna let it play.
Yeah, the media, and they might ask you questions that you don't like. They might write things about you don't appreciate or whatever. You've been around a long time. You played in the NBA for 15 years. You ain't new to this, bro. You in the movies, the movie Blue Chips with Shaq and the crew. I like that movie, and Nick Nolte and all of them. Damn it, you was in the movies for crying out loud. You played in the NBA for 15 years, and now you're a leader of young men. Unfortunately, unfairly, you cannot be a black man in that position and lose your cool the way that you did.
Okay, now this is the fundamental thought difference that I have from Stephen A. Smith. Because he is the leader of young men. He is a head coach. He does have eyes on him. I just think it's being overblown, his reaction. I don't think that he had a meltdown and lost it. I think he got frustrated and said things to some people. But at the same time, when we hear, I'm going to rewind this just a little bit, and I'm going to get into my thought process about how I think Stephen A.'s advice is garbage and why.
Nick Nolte and all of them. Damn it, you was in the movies for crying out loud. You played in the NBA for 15 years, and now you're a leader of young men. Unfortunately, unfairly, you cannot be a black man in that position and lose your cool the way that you did, and that works to your benefit.
Okay, he says, unfortunately and unfairly, as a black man, you cannot lose your cool in that position. And I think that that is true, and I think it's a travesty, but here's the fundamental difference in what I think. I think by always telling someone that, you know what, this is unfair. It's unfair that you're going to be over-criticized. It's unfair that you're going to be given circumstances that you have to be twice as twice as good as the next man. But I want you to acquiesce to those circumstances, because that is what Stephen A. is saying. He is saying it is unfair. So if you tell people that a line of rules, or not even rules, but just an overall social construct toward a black man is unfair, but then you tell him to acquiesce to that same unfair construct, that does not make any sense. My question is, since Stephen A. wants to bring up blackness, would he say that to a white coach? He never would. He wouldn't say it to a white coach because he know that a white coach wouldn't be unfairly maligned by the media for saying a few cuss words. They might even laugh at it and call it locker room banter or something like that. But since he is a black man, he has to be better and above reproach. And so what I am saying is, you are continuing the negative social pressure that's already put on black men by saying, as a black man, you can't react just like everybody else. By saying, as a black man, you can't have the same reaction as everybody else. That is continuing the status quo. And that's why I disagree with what Stephen A. said and think that it is garbage. Because Bruce Arians, he can slap a player in the back of the head, cuss at him. He could point to the locker room and tell AB to get the F out of here. And all those things are considered normal. We've seen other coaches cuss during press conferences, say things to the media, and these things are considered normal. But when a black coach does it, Stephen A. Smith says, you can't let him get to you. It is unfair, but you can't do it. So why don't we make it fair by having the same reaction as when a black person does it as somebody of another race? I'm going to play with Stephen.
Like they might write things about you don't appreciate or whatever. You've been around a long time. You played in the NBA for 15 years. You ain't new to this, bro. You in the movies, the movie Blue Chips with Shaq and the crew. I like that movie, and Nick Nolte and all of them. Damn it, you was in the movies, for crying out loud. You played in the NBA for 15 years. And now you're a leader of young men. Unfortunately, unfairly, you cannot be a black man in that position and lose your cool the way that you did. And that works to your benefit, bro.
Okay, and that works to your benefit. You can't be a black man and lose the cool the way that you did. Now, he didn't do what Antonio Brown did. He didn't take off his jersey and run off the field and throw stuff into the crowd. He didn't look at the crowd and say anything. He didn't say anything to any coaches. He didn't say anything to any other players. He said something directly to the media. To a media, again, that is a local market, and this particular, and these are what my inside sources tell me, is this particular writer that he was talking to has been writing disparaging stories about him for years. For years. And so being the leader of young men, when do you ever teach these young men how to stand up and say something for themselves? Or do we always teach these young men to simply just take it? Just take it to get on by. Just take it to keep on going. Just take it. I want to normalize something. Let's normalize black men having normal reactions. Can we normalize that? Can we normalize black men having normal reactions? Now, Penny came out the next day and he apologized for his actions. Maybe he wanted to. Maybe he thought it was the right thing to do. Maybe he was doing it to save his job. But Penny did come out and he offered an apology. Now, Stephen A. Smith, my thing is this. With his position, right, and he's giving Penny this advice, why don't, because he says it's unfair. He says it's unfair. Let's listen to him again. Stephen A. Smith says it's unfair that Penny Hardaway. Now, this part I am adding. I am giving my own. I'm lending my own thought to my interpretation to what Stephen A. Smith is saying, right? So by Stephen A. Smith saying, it's unfair. It's unfair, but soon as he says but, that means it's unfair, but I need you to keep accepting this unfair behavior. That doesn't make any sense. And instead of spending the time not going in, because he's not going in on Penny. I don't want that perception to be given. He's not going in, but spending this time giving this advice to Penny, why don't you wait to see what happened and see if you need to protect Penny? Because if you think it's unfair, why aren't you talking to the unfairness of it? Instead of talking to the unfairness of it, we want to talk about the reaction to something that's unfair. But we don't want to talk about the part that's unfair. Stephen A., he said himself that it is unfair. It is unfair that Penny won't be able to just say things that he should say or address the media the way that he should be able to address the media because he is black. And since it is unfair, I think you, Penny Hardaway, should continue under the unfair guidelines that you are expected to continue under. And that is my whole thing. If something is unfair, why don't we talk more about the part of it that is unfair instead of talking about somebody's reaction to something that is unfair? Let's listen to Stephen A. say how it's unfair.
And Nick Nolte and all of that. Damn it, you was in the movies for crying out loud. You played in the NBA for 15 years. And now you're a leader of young men. Unfortunately, unfairly, you cannot be a black man in that position and lose your cool the way that you did.
So unfortunately and unfairly, you can't be a black man in that position and lose the cool the way you did, but you can be a white guy and lose your cool the way that you did. You see what I'm trying to say? And by telling Penny to go ahead and acquiesce to these standards, that is to continue these standards. That is to continue these standards. To say, you know what? You can't do this the same way a white guy can because the white guy is going to get away with it. So I advise you to not do it. I would advise Penny to, you know what? Stand on your morals, stand on your feelings. And then people like Stephen A. Smith should do more talking to what is unfair. Because if the things that are being perpetuated that aren't fair aren't being perpetuated, then what Penny is doing would not be considered something that's an outlier or something that you should not do. Because again, if Stephen A. Smith is going to say that as a black man, you cannot. Well, how about as black people, we start doing more speaking up for what we should be able to do instead of telling him what he cannot do? Because if other coaches can do it and it would just be seen, it would just be looked at like, you know what, he got at the media. But when a black man does it, it's like, ooh, you can't do that. You know you can't do that. You know you can't do that. That makes no sense. That's regressive thinking. And by your actions, it's going to keep things the same. And no, I'm not saying how Penny should have reacted, but I am not saying that he is wrong. I'm not saying he's right. I am saying that he's a black man that is having emotions, who has feelings, and said something to the press. Again, I'm going to play what Penny said again, just in case you didn't get to hear it.
I think the one thing I can say to this media, because this media gets kind of up sometimes when it comes to me, we don't have our full roster. Y'all know we don't have our full roster. Stop asking me stupid questions about if I feel like I can do.
Now, does he look like he is melting down or unraveling or on a rampage? Or does he just look like a man that's tired of having somebody write bad stories about him, or tired of somebody who is painting a narrative about him that he feels isn't all the way necessarily true? Because the reporter has a right to ask what he wants to ask, but Penny doesn't have a right to respond the way that he wants to respond. And in my humble opinion, I think that Penny's response could also make the reporter better, because those questions are meant to make him melt down. Again, the reporter asked him, "Hey, Jeremiah, how are you?" The reporter asked him, "Are you ashamed of your team?" Now, this is after you just had a bad game. You're already frustrated. This reporter has been on your beat for years. The reporter knows what's going to get under your skin, and you ask, are you embarrassed of your team? And the reporter also asks, do you feel confident enough to keep coaching the team? What does the reporter want him to say? You know what? Yes, I'm terribly embarrassed by my team. And you know what? I don't feel confident enough to be coaching this team. Because if that was the case, he could have just got up right there and then and said, I quit. But that is what that journalist, that particular reporter, is looking for by that question. And he answered the reporter with something that might make the reporter back up and say, you know what, let me do some real journalism. Let me ask some good questions instead of trying to ask these questions that are just going to go viral based on a response that he may have that I know would be bad for his career. So they ask questions that it's very easily for you to answer and lose your money, lose your job coaching. And instead of Stephen A. talking to that, he spoke more to him to him reacting to something that he admits is unfair. So something is happening unfair, and we're supposed to acquiesce to whatever is unfair. In my opinion, that just continues to bolster whatever is unfair.
Something. We have 4 freshmen starting. Y'all need to act like it. Act like we got 17 to 18 and 19-year-olds out here trying to learn how to play against 22, 23, and 24-year-old guys. Come on, man. Stop disrespecting me, bro. Like, don't do that. I work too hard. I work way too hard for that. Y'all write all these articles about me, and all I do is work. We got young kids on the floor. They got young kids on the floor.
All right.
Okay, there's something very poignant that Penny said that really stuck out to me. And I think it's kind of getting glossed over when it comes to, you know, the things that are being said by the media. Penny said, we got young kids on the floor that got young kids on the floor. So what he is saying is, yeah, I'm coaching these young guys. These guys are freshmen and they're 18, 19, 17, whatever he said. But by saying they have young kids on the floor, that's saying that these guys have kids as well. And what he's trying to say, in my opinion, is much more vast than just basketball. It goes into the things that these people say can devalue them monetarily. It can put a negative connotation in the mouths of the people who are going to be eventually paying these guys for something that they have put their whole life into trying to get better at. That is saying that, you know, how are you affecting these guys when they go home and they have to read all this terrible stuff and they got kids? So when he said that line, it made me realize that to this guy, maybe this is about a little more than simply just a ball and a hoop. Again, he says, we got young kids on the floor that got young kids on the floor. That sounds like a rap lyric right there. That sounds like a rap lyric right there to me. All right. And again, that's messing up a lot of things for those kids who got young kids on the floor. And it's messing it up because if Penny loses his job or you know how these things start to happen, like a chain reaction. One person asked a question, hey, Penny, are you confident in coaching your team? And are you embarrassed of your team? And if Penny doesn't answer the way that he answers, this becomes a small narrative that becomes a big narrative. And now we're talking about somebody who was a legend in Memphis who now may, be in a position to where things are going to be of a loss based on a perception given by somebody who asked a gotcha question in the first place, right? I got notes today. I went ahead and took a couple notes, all right? So if the societal narrative about black men isn't fair, then why continue the societal narrative? Why continue the societal narrative? That literally makes no sense to say, you know what, I know these things are unfair, but since you are black, you are supposed to still acquiesce to the things that are unfair. To somebody with a big microphone like Stephen A. Smith, how about we reverse that and start talking more about the things that are unfair? Because when black men have normal reactions, it should be normalized. This man is under immense pressure. Immense pressure. They got some of the best prospects out there. They have a team that people were expecting to be great, but Penny also does a lot, and he does a lot for the kids, right? So let's weigh this. He's had some good seasons as well, so it's not like he's had just a terrible career, but let's talk about what he means to those kids. Let's talk about what he means to Memphis. But see, here in America, all we care about is what he means to the actual game that day. It has nothing to do with this man's career, his legacy, and things that he has actually worked for. And maybe that's why he's so frustrated, because he says, all I do is work. So for somebody that all they do is work, all they put out is good, but somebody want to just keep finding bad in them or keep finding something bad to write about, then understandably, this human being man will have a very human response. But again, for having a very human response, since he's black, he can't have that. So let's make black men having normal reactions normal. All right?
After some quick takes, after his team's third straight loss, Memphis coach Penny Hardaway sounding off, obviously frustrated. Stephen A., your reaction?
Y'all take this video out and put me on camera, please. I want me on camera right now. Let me say this to Penny Hardaway. I am a fan. I want everybody to know this. I'm a fan of Penny Hardaway. He's a great dude.
You're right, Jeremiah. These people don't actually want to solve problems. They'd rather be a victim. I agree with you.
First 3 years.
Absolutely.
They're struggling as of recently because of the reasons that he said. Penny Hardaway, I believe, is a damn good coach who's only going to get better and better.
True.
And we know he's a hell of a recruiter.
True.
And Memphis should be lucky to have him. Having said all of that,
when he says, having said all of that, that means that it's about to be something negative right at the next light.
Let me say this to you, Penny. That does you no good, bro. Don't do it.
And again, how does all that do you no good? So pretty much like the standard that is being set, or Stephen A's mindset is, don't matter how much good that Penny has done, you say that Memphis is lucky to have him. You say he's a great recruiter. You say he's been such a good guy, but that does you no good.
Yeah, the media, and they might ask you questions that you don't like. They might write things about you don't appreciate or whatever. You've been around a long time. You played in the NBA for 15 years. You ain't new to this, bro. You in the movies. The movie Blue Chips with Shaq and the crew. I like that movie. And Nick Nolte and all of them. Damn it, you was in the movies, for crying out loud. You played in the NBA for 15 years. And now you're a leader of young men. Unfortunately.
He is a leader of young men. My thing is, I think that I think this mindset is leading those young men into being very fragile-minded and always accepting the status quo. If you always accept the status quo, then all you're going to be able to do is complain about the status quo. That's all you're going to be able to do is complain about the status quo. So Stephen A will complain about these things, but when somebody does something or says something against the status quo, his advice is to go ahead and stick with the status quo.
Unfairly. You cannot be a black man in that position and lose your cool the way that you did.
Okay, and if it's unfair, he says unfair, you can't be a black man in that position and lose your cool the way you did. Well, Stephen A., how about we do more trying to make it fair? How about we try to do more making it fair than constantly talk about how something isn't fair and then right after that say, you know what, go ahead and conform to the rules that's not fair. That makes no sense. That's completely backward.
And that works to your benefit, bro. There's too much you got to give those kids. There's too much you got to give college basketball. There's too much you have to give society as a whole, considering the influence that you're going to have on young men, to let these folks get to you and lose your cool like that. I'm sure every question ain't idiotic. I'm sure every article isn't excoriating you. You got some supporters out there because it's impossible, because anybody that knows you should support you. I support you. Penny Hardaway,
Anybody that knows you support you. Should support you. I support you. And my only suggestion would be to actually fix a problem, support him by defending him. If someone were to actually come out mad at him for what he said or it hasn't happened, you might be putting it in somebody's mind. You know what? Stephen A. got a point. Maybe we should fire him. You know what? Stephen A. has a point. Maybe we should give him a fine. You know what? Stephen A. has a point. Maybe we should start looking at him more negatively now. Instead of just, letting him have the same reaction that you are saying that other people can have, because you're saying other people can have it by saying it's unfair that he can't have it because he's black. So if he can't have it unfairly because he's black, that means other people can have it fairly because they are white, right? So what I am saying is let's start removing that barrier. Let's start removing that barrier. If he responded in the same way you would have been okay with the white guy responding, then let that response ride. And instead of taking all the vitriol out on what you think he did wrong, not even what you did think he did wrong, but on the way that he went against the status quo. Why don't we save all that vitriol to fight the status quo? Just makes sense to me.
just want you to keep your cool. Remember, my brother, it's about the marathon, not the sprint.
And I agree with that. It's about the marathon, not the sprint. And the sprint, in my opinion, is just holding your tongue and taking it all the time because you just want to get past that real quick. Now, sometimes when you stand up or sometimes when you speak truth to power, people might consider that the sprint, but I consider that the marathon because you got a lot to do after that. All right. And so, again, I'm not here to just beat up Stephen A. Smith because there are a lot of things that he said that I actually agree on. And in this, I do think he is speaking in earnest. I don't think he's trying to talk bad about Penny or anything like that. I just disagree with this mindset. The mindset of, you know what? This isn't fair. Unfortunately, it isn't fair. But since it isn't fair, you just keep with the status quo of what isn't fair because it isn't fair. That makes no sense. That will never change things.
Sure, they're going to try to break you. Some people, not all, some of them.
And he says, sure, they're going to try to break you. So why don't you talk to the people that are trying to break him instead of talking to him after he's broke? So when a guy gets broken, you say, oh, sure, they're going to try to break you. And talk to the guy that's broken, but never want to talk to the people that are breaking him. So to say, sure, they're going to break you. But again, when you say but, that is saying that a black man cannot have a normal reaction. So people are going to break you, but you cannot react. That does not jive with people trying to say, you know what, you're supposed to say the way you feel. We're supposed to communicate. You tell people to go get help and this, that, the third. But when a black man says something that's on his mind, you say, it's unfair, you can't say it, but don't say it. And then wonder why people keep all these things bottled in. This stuff does not jive. It does not go together. And that's why I say it is garbage advice.
I support you.
He didn't flip over the tables. I think Jesus flipped over tables before. He didn't flip over the tables. He didn't go nuts. He said some things that had some profanity in it. But did he go crazy? No, he didn't go crazy. So I don't agree with that narrative, Stephen A. Smith. I'm going to play what Penny said one more time. I'm going to get on out of you guys.
I think the one thing I can say to this media, because this media gets kind of up sometimes when it comes to me, we don't have our full roster. Y'all know we don't have our full roster. Stop asking me stupid questions about if I feel like I can do something. We have 4 freshmen starting. Y'all need to act like it. Act like we got 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds out here trying to learn how to play against 22, 23, and 24-year-old guys. Come on, man. Stop disrespecting me, bro. Like, don't do that. I work too hard. I work way too hard for that. Y'all write all these articles about me, and all I do is work. We got young kids on the floor. They got young kids on the floor.
I like what he said at the end. He said, we got young kids on the floor. That got young kids on the floor. And you know what? Just in all fairness, what I am going to do before I get out of here as well, I am going to play Penny's apology, because Penny did come out and apologize. And like I said, I'm not judging him on whether he apologized or not, or other people's perception of what he says, because he's a man alone and he has to live with the things that he says and the things that he feels and the way that he's going to have to deal with those things. My thing is just simply this. A man is having a very normal, frustrated response. Let's stop trying to make it like black man can never be frustrated. Black men, I think we're the only men that are never supposed to ever feel anything. We're not supposed to. I know it's unfair. I know it's unfortunate, but take it.
Memphis, just want to let you guys know that I love you. Tiger Nation, I love you. I want to issue an apology to my school, to the players, and to our fans. I let my emotions get the best of me last night, and that's not the way that you handle situations. I bleed blue, and I'm fighting always for my school, for my city, and for my players. We're working very hard. We know that there's adversity right now, but it's not going to stop us from working hard. We are going to make you guys proud. We're going to win. We're going to get through this together. And to the fans that are fighting with us, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You guys help push us through with your energy. And to my players, let's keep fighting on. We're 9-1 strong. And again, Memphis, I love you. Peace.
All right. And like I said, I'm not judging him on whether he handled it wrong or right. Do I think that he could have did things differently? Of course, I think every situation you can do things differently. I'm just reacting to the way that people react to a man having emotions and feelings and frustration that is very normal. Being frustrated is normal. I think it was James Baldwin that said, if you're a black man in this country and you're not frustrated, then something's wrong. And I don't even know if he used the word frustrated. It could have been something a little deeper than that actual word of frustrated. All right. And so that's all I'm saying is I want to normalize black men having the same reactions that's allowed from other people of other races. Because if you feel like a white guy should have got away with it, then don't tell a black guy not to do it because he's black, because all you're doing is normalizing that pathology. Take our time and let's defend what's right instead of saying let's just acquiesce to what's wrong. I want to say thank you to Jeremiah for watching. Jeremiah Gardner out there, my nephew. Glad you tapped in. Amon Johnson, thank you for tapped in. Anybody else that tap into this, hey, spread the word. Baby, we back. I'm going to start getting on here and doing this more. I took some time off to learn some things and to position myself in. We got a lot of good things coming. But hey, this is Soapbox Heroes. My name is Tyrone Irvin. Go get yourself a pair of little pennies or something like that.